All right, well, good morning, everyone. And we are in part 3 of this Celebrate series, and we've been talking about celebration. And I just thought you would maybe be willing to join me in what was a great and continues to be a great celebration in my life as, yes, my brother and I did win the cornhole championship. And so, I'm not to brag, but I'm hoping you'll allow me to wear this the entire sermon. I'm a little bit concerned that the shimmer and the glistening gold might blind some of you, so maybe I shouldn't wear it. But that was embarrassing. But anyway, we had a good time at the men's event, and I hope you guys can join us another time. Yeah, we've been in the Celebrate series, and let me just say a quick prayer, and then we'll dive into the message. Father, you've got something for us today that we just don't want to miss, and there have been plenty of occasions in my life where I do miss what you've said or how you're working. And may that not be said for us this day. Help us to lean in, to grow in faith, to love you and to love what you say. For those here who have yet to begin a relationship with you, encourage them as well. Point them to you. Do a work in their lives as well. So for each of us here, have your way in us. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, well, we just defined celebrate this way, or celebration. It's a meaningful, and it's a meaningful, it's a communal, so there's a together, got to be with other people, kind of sensual, meaning not weird, but like the senses, like, you eat things, you drink things, you listen to music, all these kinds of things. So they're meaningful, communal, sensual experiences that help us be mindful, or another way to say that, to remember things, right? Like your anniversary, like your birthday, or whatever. But to be mindful, to be grateful, and to be glad. It's a celebration. And every culture around the world has a variety of celebrations. And of course, we in this country here, in our culture, we also have celebrations. I would say that we don't celebrate as well as other cultures do. We're busy working and getting stuff done. But God places an emphasis actually on celebrating. He's got feasts and festivals and all kinds of appointments for his people to be mindful of him, to be grateful for him, to be glad in him. And so anyway, that's kind of where we're going with the series. But today we're talking about celebrating marriage. Marriage, I don't know if maybe you need a little reminder, marriage is worth celebrating. Some of you are like, I thought it was just worth tolerating. No, it's worth celebrating. Marriage is worth celebrating, right? And so it's not just enduring it, tolerating it, it's enjoying it and celebrating it. Did you know fewer people than ever are getting married in our country? Marriage rates are at historic lows. In 1949, 80% of adults were married, but 48% are married today. You're getting close to half now. Isn't that unbelievable? So cohabitation is up and, living together, that kind of thing. But marriage is way down. People are waiting longer to get married. For first marriages, the average age for a man is over 30 years old now. Just broke that, 30.2 years old. And for women, it's 28.6 years old. You've probably heard this stat as well. First-time marriages, 41% of them fail, end up in divorce. For second-time marriages, 60% of those don't go well. For third-time marriages, 73% end in divorce. And so we all have a lot of information. We got Google. We got, Chat GPT, what all the things, AI, we got all kinds of knowledge, information about marriage. But it seems like people are less enthusiastic about marriage, or about getting married, right? And so one of the things that we can become kind of disillusioned and disappointed in marriage is like we just have the wrong image in mind, wrong picture in mind. And we think that a relationship should look like such and such. And so now I'm not going to settle for anything less in my marriage than until it looks like this. And we pick up these things just subliminally, advertisements, social media, movies, TV shows, that kind of thing. Let me show you a few pictures here. So like here's one image of a relationship, and I don't remember the last time I gave Joy a piggyback, but But maybe you've done that recently, and I think you tend to stop at around 30-ish, Some of you are strong, you're like, no, I did it at 50, and great, and you probably stretched beforehand. But anyway, hold on, sweetie, let me just stretch a little bit here. All right, hop on. All right, gently now. Anyway, so that's great. It's cute, but we're not giving each other piggybacks in the lobby. We're not, doing that a whole lot. So here's another image that you see. It's like, hey, we just pull over, we're on this drive. It would be great. We just pull over in the woods and we get in the back, and open up the tailgate or whatever that's called. And then it's a good thing that your, 12-year-old is with you to take the photo, And so then they do that, and you just kind of gaze into each other's eyes, and you're like, oh, this is so sweet. So not super realistic. This is a famous image here, and some of us think that marriage should look like that. And, when it's a torrential downpour, like a typhoon, the first thing we want to do is not look for cover. No. We turn toward each other, and we say, jump, don't slip, but jump. And I'll catch you, and then we can run to somewhere dry. So there's that. And maybe you're doing that, we haven't done that. And this last one is a little bit dangerous. I mean, that one right there is like, I'm not sure a Russian acrobat would do that. The groups at the halftime of the games at Golden State Warrior, whatever. You can get injured doing that. So I just we're showing that for humor purposes. Don't try this at home, as they are professionals. Anyway, so these portrayals, and we could show a million images of dinners on the beach, literally on the beach, all kinds of different things, right? They look ideal, but they're not super real, And some of us feel like, well, my relationship's not like that. Let me tell you something. Of all the images I just showed you, all the images the world shows you, God's picture of marriage done His way is far better. It is far more beautiful. It is far more attractive. It is far more rich and delightful, right? It's more rewarding. It's more bonding. It's more attractive. It's more life-shaping because our spouses change our lives, right? And it's worth celebrating. Marriage done God's way is worth celebrating. Now, notice I didn't say a perfect marriage. Like an ideal marriage. No. I'm just saying somebody that embraces the way of marriage as God offers us in His Word. And by the way, I'll just say this because I know not everybody in the room is married, or some of you were previously married, maybe widowed, maybe divorced, maybe all kinds of different stories in here. And so here's what's interesting is that as we talk about marriage, there's a temptation to only think of it like my marriage. But God actually says that all people should honor marriage, period, whether we're married or not. We should esteem it and value it. We're going to see that in just a moment. All right, so 4 things to celebrate about marriage. Number 1, celebrate the precious gift of marriage. It is a gift. It's good. Can I remind you, if you've been married more than 3 weeks, it is good, It is actually good, done God's way. And marriage is for humans, but it's not from humans. Let me say that again. Marriage is for humans, but it's not from humans. Marriage originated with who? With God. It was God's idea. He designed it. He created it. He originated it. He established it. It was literally His plan. It is not man-made. It is not a human invention. It is not a social construct. Marriage comes from God. It is a divine gift. It is a divine gift, all right? And here's what's important to understand about that. If you believe that marriage is merely a human idea, then it is not, it can have no objective definition or meaning to it. Let me say that again. If you believe that marriage is a social construct, something that we invent and whatever, then it can be easily changed, right? It has no intrinsic established meaning to that. And here's what's interesting. Even if you don't believe in God, most people don't believe that. Most people who get married believe that marriage is really, really important and really, really meaningful. But you can't believe that if you don't believe that it comes from God. Okay? And so this is super important to understand. People can hijack the term marriage, which they do, and create something else out of it. But that's just something else. And I'm trying to make that distinction. I'm talking about God's way of doing marriage. He invented it. It's His, right? Nobody on their wedding day, right, taking their vows, I, Kyle, take you, Susie, to be my wife. And however, this ceremony, I love the however in the vows, but this ceremony has actually no objective meaning to it. The only thing that's important is that we're going to exchange some really sweet words, and they mean something to us today, but tomorrow they may not. I may feel differently about you tomorrow. Have you heard those vows before? I'm not sure. It's like nobody says those vows, but that's what we're doing when we detach marriage from God. Think about this. It has no fundamental objective meaning. It's just wherever the mob goes, that's what it becomes. No, marriage is far more precious than that. In fact, that's why the scriptures say this in Hebrews 13:4. Marriage should be honored by all, everyone, young and old, male, female, married or not married. It should be honored by all. It is a divine gift. The word honored there means costly or precious. Some of you are married are like, yeah, it's costly. I got that part, But yeah, it's costly, but it's precious. This is an important principle because oftentimes marriages are broken. Marriages need work, right? All of our marriages need work. Right? They can be damaged. They can be unattractive. Here's the illustration. Diamonds are found essentially in the dirt, in other rock. I know diamonds are a rock, but in other rock, right? It's found in dirt. But tremendous efforts are made to dig them out of that mountain, to clean them up, to inspect them, to sort them and ship them and design them and craft them and polish them and display them and sell them and protect them with safes and all kinds of other things, right? A lot of work is done in cleaning up and protecting a diamond. Friend, marriage is far more valuable than the most valuable diamond. And that's how we should think about it. If you are not married, your job is to pray for other people's marriages. Your job is not to get in the way of a marriage. Even if a husband or wife comes to you because you're their best friend and they vent and empty on you, you shouldn't be the one to pour gas on the fire and say, yeah, you're right. He's such a loser. Yeah, you're right, man. I'm glad I'm not married to her. No offense, but nobody would say that. But anyway, but instead, you are to honor marriage. Now, obviously, there's extremes, right? There's times when somebody needs to be protected. There's times when... But the point is, don't miss the overarching principle here. If it's valuable, if it comes from God, it's good. And if it's good, it's valuable. And if it's valuable, it should be esteemed, prized, treasured, protected, invested into, honored. This is what we are to do. All right, secondly, celebrate the permanent bond of marriage. And I spent way too much time on this the last message, so I'll try to go quicker here. But you've heard this before, but that's what marriage is. It bonds two lives together. We don't know where Joel's life ends and Joy's life begins. Yes, we are two separate people, but we're one married couple. So it's not Joel Joy, it's Joel Joy, which is a tongue twister a little bit. But anyway, and that's how I want other people to see us that way. Haven't you noticed this? In fact, this morning, I saw a gentleman. I was like, hey, good to see you. Could your wife not make it? She's not feeling well today or whatever. But the point is, when I saw him, I also saw her, even though she wasn't in the room. Marriage isn't roommates. It's not dorm buddies from college. It's not people splitting the bills and sharing the responsibilities. Well, you share some responsibility, but marriage is way more profound. It's 1 + 1 = 1. Genesis all the way back to the first marriage. You got Adam and Eve. By the way, their marriage, super easy. Guest list, very short. Right? Who's going to be my maid of honor? How about no one? Anyway, but there's just Adam and Eve there. God's officiating. It says this, Genesis 2:24. That's why a man leaves his father and mother. So marriage is for men, not boys, who need mom to cut the crust off their PB&J. Anyway, and is united to, I didn't need to say that. We'll cut that from the whatever. Anyway, and is united to his wife, and they become one flesh. They are joined together. The word there is hold fast, to make a permanent bond. So I've used this illustration before, but like marriage is a lot like making authentic, genuine, Southern sweet tea. Because my wife, first 10 years of her life, she lived in Dallas. Next several years, she lived in Alabama. Every so often, the accent comes out. I make fun of her. But anyway, so in love. Anyway, so how many of you have ever lived in the South before? Okay? And I don't mean like Fresno, but actual okay, anyway. All right, so some of you are like, well, Patterson is South. Okay, so no, it's like genuine Southern sweet tea, because it's not that you make the tea and then after the tea is made, you dump sugar in it, okay? That's how I would make it, but that's not the good way to make it. You heat up the tea, and as you're heating it up, you pour in the sugar, and you stir it in. So the sugar molecules and the tea molecules join, they fashion together. They literally bond together. Let no one separate, and this is how you make, they're becoming one in a sense. And to carry the illustration, the metaphor on further, they're becoming one through agitation. Conflict, through heat. Interpret that how you want. But anyway, so that's the idea here, right? And they can never be separated again. This is the look, the picture, the bond of marriage. It blends two wills, two minds, two sets of emotions. I'm my own person, kind of. Because married people know this, right? When your spouse is having a bad day, when your spouse is not feeling great, when your spouse is upset, you're going to feel that. You're going to experience the upsettedness. Some of you are shaking your head too vigorously right now. But anyway, you're like, yes, preach. No. But when your spouse is cranked, when mama is not happy, nobody's happy. When dad is not happy, everybody just goes on. But anyway, so that's the picture. And that's how marriage is supposed to work. It actually is. Joy's fears and her insecurities are my fears and insecurities. My dreams and anxieties are her dreams and anxieties. This is how marriage is. It's oneness. And the word one, ehad, it's the same word used in the great Shema. Hear, O Israel, Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai, ehad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. So it's used of God himself, Father, Son, and Spirit. And it references, or it's also then used of marriage. Think about that. There's like a mystery to it. See, the good news is that God unites a husband and wife in marriage. The bad news is the enemy works really hard to divide what God unites. The good news is that God fosters commitment to oneness. The bad news is that the world tempts us and introduces us to many. You could have all of them. The good news is that God brings people together in devotion. The bad news is that the flesh and our sin nature tears us apart in isolation. So one time, Jesus was questioned by some Pharisees about marriage and divorce, and he goes back to the original, like the verse we just read in Genesis 2:24. And then he says this in Matthew 19:6. So they are no longer two, but how many? One flesh. Therefore, who? God has joined together. Let no one separate. I thought it was like on the wedding day, it was just the groom and the bride. Like I thought it was just the two of them. No. In the divine gift of marriage, it's not just the groom and the bride. There's another party there. And who's the other party? It's God himself. Do you understand how profound this is? What God has joined together. What he has, the molecules he has assembled together. Let nobody tear apart. I like what Tim Keller says. He says, marriage is not so much a declaration of present love, although it's that. It's the binding promise of future love. It's a promise not to feel warm and loving all the time, because nobody can promise that, right? Even though we do on our wedding day. I will never, I will always feel amazing with you and serve you. And then 2 days later, it's like, well, they broke that vow. But anyway, so it's a promise to be loving and tender and faithful and cherishing and serving when you feel good. No, regardless of the ups and downs of emotions or circumstances, long-term through thick and thin. I like that. Love is not just a commitment to devotion in the present. It's a promise for future devotion. The days, the hours, the time that has not yet come, it's saying, I will be here for you because we are one. You feel the weight in this. Let me just say last thing here. So we just read Matthew 19:6, what God has joined together, let no one separate. 4 verses later, after Jesus' disciples hear Jesus talk about marriage and divorce, here's what they say, Matthew 19:10. The disciples said to him, if this is the situation between a husband and wife, it's better not to marry. Now, they're not against marriage, but it's so profound what Jesus is saying here. It's so massive. It's deeper, it's richer than anyone could imagine. They're like, well, it's too much for us. And that's kind of the point that Jesus is making. It's big. It's really big, right? Jesus' vision for marriage is virtually unfathomable. It's virtually indescribable in human terms. But it is good and it is true. Thirdly, is that celebrate the practical ministry of marriage. You see, in every marriage, there's only 2 problems. 1, the groom. 2, the bride. All right, that's the only problems. And it's good to know that, actually. It's good to recognize that you are far from perfect. Because a lot of times what happens in marriages and relationships and stuff is like one of them sees themselves as wiser, godlier, more mature than the other. And consequently, they're like above them, right? And they're kind of going, hey, dude, you got to wake up, catch up to speed here. Once you're with me, then, I'll relax a little bit. But until then, of course, the irony is they're doing what? They're actually being proud, right? They're being arrogant, they're being conceited, all the things that the Lord detests. But there is this can be a competition. Friends, both the husband and the wife are far from perfect, and therefore, here's the beauty of marriage. Marriage is a tool. It's an instrument used by God. And of course, plenty of people don't get married, so I'm not saying you have to be married, but it is something God uses to mature one another, to grow us up, to learn how to love when it's hard to love, to learn how to forgive when we don't feel like it, to learn to sacrifice, to literally say goodbye to maybe a hobby because it's just taking too much of your devotion and your time, or to at least put it on the back burner or whatever. It's understanding that God comes first, right? Not even my spouse. The Bible doesn't say trust in your spouse with all your heart. Bible doesn't say, seek first the kingdom of your husband or wife, You put God first. It's the proper order of things. And in so doing, we grow closer together. But in the context of marriage, we shape each other. So I'm a lot more like Joy, even in my personality, than I was when we got married. And she, unfortunately, to her, but dismay, is a little bit like me, a little bit more like me. But no, the truth is, I'm joking, but you kind of like shave off each other's rough spots over time. And it only happens over time. It's the only way that can happen. It happens over. So he might learn to be patient. She might need to learn to exercise self-control. He might need to learn kindness. She might need to learn grace or something like that, right? But collectively, and they're not God, but God uses them to grow them in faith, right? So Ephesians 5:25 says, husbands, love your wives just like Jesus loved his bride, the church, and gave himself up for her. And what does Jesus do for his bride? To make her holy, cleansing her by the washing of water through the word, and to present her to himself as a radiant church without stain or wrinkle or any other blemish, but holy and blameless. See, a Christian marriage prioritizes this. I want my spouse to grow to become more like Jesus. That is really important to me. That's of utmost importance. I want them to look more and more like Jesus as a result of our marriage relationship. And now you can see if that's your goal, you're like, ooh, I better step it up. I better grow in faith. I better, learn to be more gracious or learn to be more kind or whatever, because God has put us together so that I can help them grow. The fourth thing is this, is celebrate the profound picture of marriage. The picture of marriage is this. It's a gospel reenactment. In the first service, I said, you know what? The Apostle Paul was never married. And in fact, 1 Corinthians 7, he's like, hey, practically, when it comes to serving Christ, it might be better if you're not married. But he's like, but most of you are going to get married, and most of you need to be married, okay? And enjoy the gift of marriage. But the Apostle Paul was married, and then I said this. And I said, Jesus wasn't married. And that's only kind of true. That's true in his earthly life. Don't worry, there's no Dan Brown stuff happening right now, okay? His earthly life. But actually, Jesus does have a bride. And in fact, it's called those who belong to him, the church. And in fact, this, quote, marriage, not the way we think of it exactly, but this bonded relationship is eternal. But our human marriages, the relationship will last, but the marriage won't last. Meaning the human marriage points to a grander, greater marriage. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay, why is that important? Because people need some kind of image or picture of what the enduring, steadfast love of God looks like. And that's why it's incumbent upon his people, we're not going to have perfect marriages, but to somehow, in some small measure, reflect his love in the way that we love one another. Does that make sense, you guys? Okay? It's the witness we have. It's the profound picture we are to show. People are becoming less and less attracted to marriage because there are less and less marriages that are attractive. Make it your ambition, if you're married, that would not be said of you. That it's not only about you. It's about the witness, the testimony that you have, the difference God can make through your life by being a faithful picture to what marriage is like. All right, we got a few minutes left, so we're going to be really practical here. Ready? Practical. All right, so how to enjoy marriage. How do we practically enjoy marriage? Because the Lord says in Genesis 2, it's not good for the man to be alone, no kidding, and I will make a helper, because he needs help, suitable for him, somebody that fits him just right? I'm going to need to make somebody, and because mankind was different than the animals, right? And made in God's image. And we are not animals. I just want to make that clear. Human beings are not animals, all right? We are distinct from animals. God made us in his image. We can create. We can all kinds of things, all right? But we're different. And then so like none of the animals fit, right, Adam? And so he makes Eve. Eve fits. And there's this beautiful language, and he sees Eve, and he's like, whoa, that's just my translation. He's like, boy, you fit. You have opposable thumbs, and you're amazing. And so anyway, you're more like me, all right? You're made to be with me, and I'm made to be with you. Like we're made to be together kind of thing is the idea, all right? So this is the idea. And they're to help one another. Look at Ecclesiastes 4:10 and 11. I love this picture. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up, but pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. I don't know if some of you have experienced, like I've fallen and I can't get up. And so that's a bad joke, but it's an old commercial. Anyway, verse 11. Also, if two lie down together, they will keep warm, but how can they keep warm alone? Like, not every day is going to be fantastic. Not every day is going to be successful. Not every day is going to be a win. You and I will experience great losses and hardships in life. And when we encounter those and we fall, so to speak, we need somebody there to help us up. Now you say, well, what do you do? I mean, that's not specifically talking to marriage. No, I'm just saying in marriage, if you are married, that would be the first person to help you up, okay? If you're not married, it would be a friend. So here's what I'm saying. If you want to learn to enjoy marriage, think about the ways that you enjoy friendship. Okay? Think about the ways that you enjoy friendship. Do you see your spouse not just as your husband or your wife? That's remarkable. That's amazing. But as your friend, as your best friend. People will come and go. Kids will move out eventually. Some of them move back. Then they move out again, whatever. But just you move, life happens. There's jobs and stuff. You know what? You know who keeps following you everywhere? That your spouse. You know, they stick with you. I've told Joy, I've said, sweetie, if you ever leave me, I'm coming with you. And, because you're together. It's this permanent bond, molecules. Remember we talked about this. All right, So because people are like, I'm overwhelmed. Where do I start? My marriage needs a tune-up. Do I need to dive into conflict resolution? Maybe. Do I need to dive into family of origin issues? Maybe. Do I need to dive into budgeting? Maybe. Do I need to dive into like sexual intimacies because we struggle with it? Maybe. But I would just say this. You know what? A great place to start is just building your friendship. Building your friendship. Okay. John Gottman, a sociologist and researcher, he has a greater than 90% success rate in predicting divorce. And he says that while men and women, they're very different, one thing many of them have in common, and it's this: the most important thing to 70% of married men and women is that their spouse be their closest friend. Think about that. You may have never thought of your spouse that way, but it makes sense, doesn't it? You know the kid that you grew up with, you played wiffle ball with in the front yard, you have all these wonderful memories. You probably lost track of them in college or somewhere along the line. Like, my dad has talked about the best man in his wedding. That's some dude I've never met before. Just happened to be around him for a couple years, you know what I mean? Like in that season of life. People come and go. Your best friend should be your spouse. I think it's important to think of marriage that way. All right, but marriage should be enjoyable, like a friendship is enjoyable, but it should be enjoyable in more ways than that. Okay, enough of the friendship stuff. But Solomon says this in Ecclesiastes 9:9. Enjoy life with the wife, that rhymes, whom you love, all the days of your vain, meaningless, fleeting, short life. That sounds intense. It's wisdom literature. He's saying life goes by fast. So if you're married, enjoy life with your wife, with your husband. And you know what that requires? You might need to let go of a grudge, probably, right? You might need to have a hard conversation. You might need to forgive each other. You might need to start taking steps toward each other. You might need to find some things that you enjoy doing together, you know? Joy and I don't have a ton in common when it comes to hobbies. So when I'm explaining to her about the, golf shot I had on the 5th hole and how, man, I just really smoked it, she's like, and she's trying to act like she's enjoying this conversation, but I can see right through those eyes and into her cold heart. She doesn't get it. She doesn't get it. But we have found things, and then of course the big things, we're on the same page, but we found things that we enjoy doing together. See, imagine a married couple who embarks on a 2-week dream vacation to Italy. Raise your hand if you've ever been to Italy. Okay, so I can be envious. All right, someday maybe, but anyway, really want to go to Italy. But they have first-class travel, 5-star accommodations. I mean, just the best food. They have world-class shopping, the whole bit. They start their adventure in Venice, let's say, and they take that gondola ride under the ancient stone, bridges, and there's St. Mark's Basilica and all the amazing things, and enjoy the meals. And then they are whisked away by train to Florence, the birthplace of the Renaissance. And there's that, Michelangelo carved that statue called David. That's pretty famous. That's pretty cool. Whatever you see that, the Uffizi Gallery and all these masterpieces, and you enjoy a meal under the canopy of the Tuscany stars. All right, that's enough of that. But anyway, and then you go down to the Amalfi Coast, and it looks like it's been carved. I mean, it's just along the water, and it looks like it's like somebody literally took a chisel to it, and you're like, no way they could build like a town into the side of that mountain, but they do, and they're so cool, and these cobblestone streets, and the lemon trees, and it just smells good, and the fragrance, and maybe you take a sunset sailboat, and just enjoying the whole thing. The trip ends in Rome. You throw some coins into that fountain thing, that seems to be a good deal. And then you go to the Colosseum, private tour, like the majesty of the Colosseum. And then at night, you're serenaded on a rooftop terrace overlooking the Pantheon. And it's just the two of you. Okay, that's couple one. Couple two, they don't have that much money, but they got a car and a few bucks, so they take a few days and they drive up and down the California coast. And they stay at like 2.5-star hotels, and they enjoy some meals, but honestly, about 1/3 of them are not good at all, okay? And 2/3 of them they survive on and live on, but they share memories and stories, and they laugh together, and they hold hands, and they have this great time. Now, which is the more enjoyable experience? Now, let me just say this. Here's the caveat. The first couple that takes their dream vacation to Italy, that couple, it's not that they don't hate each other, but they don't cherish each other. They don't adore each other. They're not vulnerable with each other. They don't open up. The second couple does. The second couple does. Which is the more enjoyable vacation? The answer is, unless you have no soul, the second one, okay? Some of you are like, I don't know, Tuscany? No, but no. The wisdom of Solomon, enjoy life with your wife, with your husband, because it's far less about the experiences themselves and far more about who the experiences are with. If you want to have an enjoyable marriage, you got it. Here's where it starts. Be enjoyable. A few thoughts here. What do I mean by be the kind of person who's enjoyable? One, you got to be faithful. You got to be faithful to God and each other. That's obvious. Put Jesus first. Enough of that. Secondly, be approachable. Be a safe person. You cannot have an enjoyable marriage if your spouse is walking on eggshells around you. Always careful that they're going to offend you. Always, they can't even barely make eye contact without you losing your cool or thinking something negative or whatever. And they're just like, they try. There's this avoiding kind of weirdness and stuff. No, you got to establish a place of safety and rest. The safest place should be with your spouse. And I don't mean just physically, although that too, but emotionally. Thirdly, be available. You got to carve out time together. You can't, if you're working 80 hours a week, I would encourage you got to figure that out, dude. Or dudette. But you got to figure that out, right? You see, when I'm saying be available, I'm also saying be present, be helpful. By being present, I don't mean literally only physically existing, like in the same space. Okay, yes, it's that. But sometimes we confuse proximity with intimacy. Just because we're near each other, just because you sleep in the same bed, doesn't mean you're intimate, that you're that close, actually. So being present, what I mean by is not just proximity, but being aware, being alert, being a good listener, being thoughtful, being helpful. You know, they're carrying a heavy something, and you're not the one sitting there going, man, that looks heavy. It's that kind of thing, right? You know what is probably worse than taking care of all the responsibilities of home on alone? It's being married to somebody who could help, but they choose not to. In that context, resentment builds up. You need, like, and this took me years to figure out, okay? So it's not like whatever. A lot of tough conversations, a lot of tough moments. I literally wrote down one time, because I'd failed over and over, I wrote down, when Joy's working, we're both working. Because I would go to work and I would work hard. I would get home, I'm tired, and I just want to chill like a dude, you know? And then she's like, oh, she's doing dishes, she's preparing the meal, she's whatever, all the things. And she's kind of looking at me going, hey, I could use a hand here. And it took me a long time to figure out, it's not enough for me just to be in her presence. See, I thought she would enjoy the wonder of just being near Joel. But actually, she could use, some help or whatever, right? Here's the truth, you guys. You're not enjoyable if you're not helpful. I mean, even Joy was gone for a few days this last week watching our granddaughter. And when she came home, like I'm always usually pretty good about, I like to pick her up with a clean car. I know that sounds ridiculous, but so I'll just get it all cleaned up and nice, because I just want to pick her up in her chariot, from the luxurious Oakland airport, and so I do that. But on the way home, I was like, darn it, I meant to clean out her car too, because she mentioned that a couple days before she left, and I was like, darn it. So by the way, I'm going to do that today. But being helpful, be teachable, by that I mean, don't be proud and stubborn, and be humble, but also be a learner. You see, when you learner and you're inquisitive and you are curious, you become an interesting person. And it's kind of fun it's enjoyable to be with interesting people. And then the last one here is be playful. I don't mean irresponsible, but, some things in life are very, very serious, for sure. But there are some people who seem to think everything is. And it's not. Lighten up, for crying out loud. I love what somebody gave Joy the advice. Make it your goal to try to make Joel laugh every day. And we make each other laugh all the time. I mean, I'm kind of ridiculous. It's like the spontaneous dance parties and all the jokes and all the whatever, and I'm just silly and not all the time, but I do this part. This is the one out of the 12 things that I do okay. But anyway, so there's this childlike sense of fun. Some people struggle in that. It's like, what were you like as a child? Just have some fun. Be lighthearted. Create a cheerful environment. Poke fun at yourself, right? Have those spontaneous moments and exchange the witty banter and just enjoy each other, right? And then so be enjoyable, and then bring enjoyment. And we're out of time, so I probably should just wrap this up, you guys. A marriage is to be honored by who? I forget. everyone. Marriage is to be honored by all. And it's a gift. I'm trying to remember who it's a gift from. Somebody gave us this gift. Who was it from again? It's a gift from God. It's incredibly valuable, and it's important, and it's used of God, and it's also a testimony to the world how great our God is. So I've shared a lot of things today about marriage, but maybe there's just one thing if you're married that you can latch onto and say, you know what? We need to go to Italy, or I don't know, whatever it is, but we need to do something enjoyable. We need to invest a little bit more into our marriage relationship. Carve something else out. You guys, our life goes by fast. Raise your hand if you've been married 30 or more years. Can we give them a hand, you guys? 30 or more years? Yeah, that's awesome. I can pretty much guarantee you that if you asked those couples who just raised their hands, like, has it gone by slowly or fast? They'd probably say fast. Cherish each day. Enjoy life with your wife and your husband. Let's pray together. Father, thank you for our time together this morning. It's even just looking around the room, it's neat to see so many special and unique and beautiful marriages. And it's something that the world is missing. It's one of the reasons why I want to see this place just continue to fill up with people who are looking and searching and need some help, need some encouragement, because I know if they rub shoulders with many of the people in this room, they will be better off. For those who are struggling in marriage, may this not be a defeating moment. The enemy is the accuser. The enemy is the discourager. There's no discouragement that comes from you. Will you be the lifter of their heads today? Will they sense the hope that is found with you? For those that have gone through the pain of divorce, I pray that they would understand that that doesn't define them. It doesn't mark them forever. That you're a gracious God. There are things to be learned from it, but you're a good and forgiving and gracious God, and life is complicated. Anyway, God, strengthen our marriages. I think this world would be better if Cedar Grove was filled with people who had strong marriages. We love you in Jesus' name. Amen.